It was a Friday night, and we got there probably about 10 o'clock, and the place is packed, and we got a table. And I remember asking you, are we the oldest people in the room? And you, without question, just immediately said yes. And I said, well, hold on, wait, we don't look old, do we? Like, does everybody know that we are the oldest people in this room?
Hey, I'm Brian.
And I'm Scott.
And this is the Two Old Fashioned Podcast, where two friends get together and just talk about life. We are here today just, thinking about our family, friends, sports, what we like to do in our free time. And, Scott, thinking about it, does the world really need two guys talking about podcast stuff on a weekly basis?
I mean, we're going to do it anyway, so we might as well just record it, share it with the world.
That's true. This is really just for us, and if anybody likes it, that's even better. So
let's
kick it off each week with what we're drinking. So I made a old fashioned tonight with a little bit of Knob Creek, little bit of maple syrup, like to do that in the winter, and then two kinds of bitters, and of course one of those fancy cherries. What about you, Scott? What are you drinking?
So I too have an old fashioned. I'm drinking Elijah Craig tonight with some Yes Cocktail Company pecan syrup and some orange bitters. That Yes Cocktail Company syrup, I don't know if you have tried those before, but they are fantastic. I don't know if anybody from Yes Cocktail Company is listening, but we would love a sponsorship. So Yes Cocktail Company, love to bring you on board. Shoot us a note. Let us know.
All right. Well, technically nobody's listening, but maybe one day. So
I think my kids want to be the first ones to listen. So we'll at least have two listeners.
Two big fans. I love it. We're going to start small and we're going to grow continually small. So, but we were just thinking about this the other day. It's like, all right, we're two guys in our 40s. Like, how did we even become friends? You seem to remember this better than I do. So why don't you remind me?
You don't remember at all the first time we met?
No, I'm sorry. Is that a forgivable offense?
No, I don't know. Okay. I mean, I remember because it's very memorable. So
podcast's over. We give up.
I think 8 years ago or so, a new winery opened up in our neighborhood. Let's just call it the winery so we don't get doxxed. And it's adults only. So there were no kids, and they had their first party for members of the wine club. And my wife and I show up. It's probably Friday, maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And we show up at the venue, and there was maybe 100 people in the room. And we looked around, and there was one table with people of the same age as us. It was Brian, you and your wife, and another couple. And we sat down with you. We were social for something came over us, and we decided to be social that day. And we quickly realized we had a lot in common. I learned that you were a big Nats fan. I'm a huge Nats fan.
Yep.
You went to the same school, and you and your wife actually both went to the same school that my wife went to. So we hit it off so much. We had such a fun time. I think we went through like 4 or 5 bottles of wine, legitimately amongst the 6 of us. It was a fun day. But we hit it off so well that I don't think we talked again for 2 years or so until like the heart of the pandemic, when actually my family and we moved right down the street from you, coincidentally.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds about right. Sounds like a way you meet people in these days at the winery, and then forget about them. And then 2 years later, see them down the street, become friends.
So now I got to ask, because you obviously had no recollection of that day. So what is your first memory of me?
I mean, I remember we were hanging out, and like, I think our wives had kind of gotten to know each other. And then you were kind enough to introduce us up to some other friends that you knew from your previous neighborhood that were going to go to preschool with our kids. And just from there, it just kind of like, you invited us over for like a Chilean football night. And then I was like, hey, I've got some whiskey, come over and we'll watch some football. And then you invited us into your cool fantasy football league. And it just kind of like a series of fortunate events that kind of led us to this podcast.
Are we going to talk about the time when I invited you, unknowing about what your passion is, but I invited you to a bourbon tasting?
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that.
I don't know if we need to get into it right now.
Yeah, maybe we'll table that for a future episode.
Down the road, because that's a very embarrassing.
That wasn't embarrassing.
Maybe not first impression, but like third impression to make on somebody who, as you can see behind Brian, his passion for bourbon.
Yeah, it's gotten out of hand. It started in the previous house and then here, and then once you have a little room and you just kind of start collecting things. I will say it was like a
Mhm.
nice way in the pandemic to meet some people. Like I moved
Yeah.
into this neighborhood back in like 2018. We were pregnant with our first kid, and like, back in Arlington, all my friends were from college and work. And then, you move out here, which is about an hour outside the city, and you kind of have to start over. We didn't quite have kids yet, so you didn't have that kids network. And, I kind of met a guy on Reddit that was hosting a bottle share, and he was like, "Oh, come
You
over."
met a you met a guy on Reddit?
Yeah, yep.
Do
Still
you
one of
do
my
that
good
frequently?
friends. No, no. So that was the thing. He was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna have people over on a Friday night. Come to my basement. Everybody brings a couple bottles." And I was just very trusting. I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That sounds like a great idea." My wife's like, "Write down your name, your location." And
Yeah.
but no, yes, could have gone really bad. I will say, funny story. This guy doesn't have great cell service in his basement, and at one point, one of the wives did show up, being like, "I haven't heard from you in like 3 hours, and I thought you were dead." But no, nobody was dead. Everybody had a good time. So,
Yeah.
and then just kind of like you meet people through that. And, the winery scene out here is kind of fun. We've got breweries now. So there's a lot to do. There's also stuff to do that's not drinking, but we enjoy the booze.
So we are in the Northern Virginia area. I guess we should make that clear. We talked about the
Yes.
Nationals. We talked about all the wineries. Um,
Yep.
but you're not originally from the Northern Virginia area. I am. I grew up here. I spent some time in Georgia, but more or less, I spent my entire life here in Northern Virginia. Brian, you grew up in Richmond. What brought you up to Northern Virginia?
Yeah, great question. I mean, so been in Virginia my whole life. So outside of Richmond, school in Charlottesville, and then just kind of the job market brought us here. I mean, I feel like everybody that graduates from UVA either goes to New York, DC, or Atlanta, or maybe now probably like San Francisco, Silicon Valley, that kind of stuff. But those were kind of the options. This was the closest one. I had some good friends that lived in basically what we called our fraternity house, but north. Like it was five guys, and we
Hmm.
would just kind of rotate in and out based on when people got jobs. So came up, first job, really liked it ever since. Great, great area, lots to do, good career options, and then raising a family here. What made you stick around?
Oof. That was not the plan. That was not the plan. So, when I graduated high school, I did not want to be one of those, let's call them townies, right? The people that go to college and just come right back to where they grew up. And so I went to college down in Georgia. I loved it down there. Loved the food, loved the people, just love the vibe. It's a very laid back vibe down in hot Atlanta. And my family was trying very, very hard to get me to move back here. My dad, his whole family had a business in New York when he was a kid. He actually went to American University for college and never went back to New York. And so my dad did not want me to do the same thing that he did to his family. But I was working for a nonprofit down in Georgia. It was right during the Great Recession, and I needed to find a new job. And I decided that the best way to find a new job was to go to grad school. Went up here for grad school, had every intention to move right back down to Georgia after I graduated. But I actually ended up meeting my now wife, and her family is from Virginia, and we've been here ever since. So part of me, I'd love to cover this on another episode because I think it's a good topic, but the feeling of being trapped. I mean, I feel like I am trapped in the Northern Virginia area for a number of reasons. You mentioned the job market. I think the families being closed. I'm very jealous of some of my friends who have lived in so many different cities. Would love to cover if you have ever had any feelings about that. Maybe that's a future episode.
Yeah, I think we could think about that. But yeah, I mean, it's a great area. I feel like we are fortunate enough we can get down to Charlottesville in a couple hours, you can get to the beach, you get up to New York on the train. I like it. I'm very more curious about people that like, grow up on the East Coast and then go to the West, or like move to Europe, like that kind of stuff. It's amazing to me. I would love to tell my kids to do it because I certainly didn't. But you make a good point too, like being close to family. My parents both grew up in Missouri and then kind of made their way to the East Coast. The rest of their family stayed in Missouri, and so I like having my family within 2.5 hours. Like maybe
Hmm.
15 minutes might be too close, but I like
Yeah.
I like that we can get there when we want to and not have anybody make any surprise dinner visits. And that's kind of what I was thinking with school too. I went to school about an hour from home. Like nice, still in that kind of security blanket, but enough breathing room to kind of live it up and learn a lot.
Yeah. So we're in our 40s. I'm actually, I don't know about you.
Last I checked.
I don't want to give anything away about you, but I will say I'm actually turning 40 this year. I will admit that.
Oh man, you're a youngin'.
It'll be the third time I turned 40.
Okay, fair.
I might actually celebrate it this year. We'll see. But I wanted to ask you, because we've had this conversation a few times before. We're in our 40s. You named the podcast Too Old Fashioned. I can't even say Too Old Fashions, right?
I know, it's a tongue twister.
Do you feel old? Are we old? Are we old?
I mean, I don't want to go like all zen and be like, age is just a state of mind. But okay, I was telling somebody this the other day. May have been you. But like, I remember when my dad turned 40, and it was like a very comedic event. He had the walker with like the horn on it and like the over the hill decorations, and everything was black and all that. And like, I don't know, when I turned 40, I was like, I don't know, I felt more confident and more energized than I did in my 20s. I felt like I kind of knew what I was doing. Like, I didn't have to worry about, frankly, like, okay, where's the next meal coming from? I mean, I shouldn't say meal, but like, I wasn't worried about like every little thing. I could like enjoy it. Like, okay, if I want to go to the Nets game, I could go to the Nets game. If one of my favorite bands is coming in town, like I can make that work. So like, I am embracing it. I will say, like, career-wise and things like that, surrounded by younger people that know how to do things better, that can be interesting, right? But to answer your question in the most simple terms, I don't feel old. I feel mature.
Yeah. Do you remember last year, you and I coincidentally went to the same concert? We went to go see Jason Isbell, who's one of, I think, both of our favorite musicians.
Yes.
At a theater, I think maybe it was the Warner Theater or State Theater. I don't actually remember what theater it was, downtown DC.
I think it was Warner, but yeah.
Warner Theater, yeah. Speaking of being old, by the way, do you remember he went on like right at 7:30?
Very prompt.
And I think he was done before 9 p.m.
Yeah,
and he doesn't drink. So nope. I don't know what he does for the rest of the night. But talk about.
And he was going to be there for 3 nights. Like, was he going to go take a midnight tour of the monuments? Which that's a nice thing to do. But yeah, we were kind of curious. What's he going to do with the rest of his evening?
Talk about a perfect show for older people. But anyway, yep. I mean, you and I, right? We said we're still young, we're still fun. We went to Rocket Bar. And for those of you listening in the DC area, Rocket Bar is where you go right when you turn 21 and you want to drink $3 Bud Lights or High Lifes. I don't even know if they serve Bud Light down at the Rocket Bar Cavern. But we
don't
went
forget,
there.
You can shoot some pool, you can shoot some big buck hunter. Like, there's games, there's a lot going on. It's right near where the hockey and basketball teams play. Yeah. It's a great little spot.
It was a Friday night, and we got there probably about 10 o'clock, and the place is packed, and we got a table. And I remember asking you, are we the oldest people in the room? And you, without question, just immediately said yes. And I said, well, hold on, wait, we don't look old, do we? Like, does everybody know that we are the oldest people in this room? And you immediately said yes.
I mean, okay, you said we got a table. Like, who else needs a table? We needed somewhere to put our drinks. We had our buddy, like, we got a pitcher. Yeah. But yeah, the rest of them, they didn't need a table. They were just standing, dancing, all that stuff. No, once you need a table, Scott, you're old. But
that's
again,
the tell.
It's all relative. We're still fun. We were still out doing stuff.
That's right.
We could have just gone home too. We could have just been like, we're done. I ended up staying out so late that the metro wasn't running anymore.
I remember that. I was terrified for you trying to get back here on the subway after midnight. I don't know what happens there.
Nothing. It's very clean. It's convenient. Just, ended up being an Uber/Lyft ride home.
Yeah.
But all right, speaking of music, you're big fans. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of music in common. He told me, I texted you the other day. I was like, this guy, Howie Day, is coming into town, who, for those of you that don't know, he had a couple big songs in maybe the early 2000s. He had his EP called Australia. He's known for doing the thing with like the pedal. So he'll play something, record it, repeat. Also, I think he ended up in the headlines a little bit, might have had some not great things going on, but very talented musician. He's coming to a place in DC, not far from us. I'm like, Scott, I feel like this is somebody you would like.
By the way. On my birthday.
Oh,
And I think it's
All
the
right,
second
now
year in
I
a
know
row
when
he
your
has
40th
played.
birthday is.
I think it's the second year in a row he has played that venue on my birthday.
Okay, so that might be related to where you're going to be coming from. But I was like, let's go. And you're like, "Oh, I have a story about that guy. So let's hear it."
Well, I didn't realize that we were going to get right into it so fast. And I'm slightly worried about being canceled by the Howie Day fans because I'm sure there's, at least 12 of them in the country listening right now. Uh, yeah, when I was in high school, I think Howie Day was the first singer songwriter that I really got into. This was around the time of John Mayer and Jason
Hmm.
Mraz and Jack Johnson. And but Howie Day, I mean, I guess
And
Dave.
Mayor was coming out of Georgia, right? So, like, were you
Yeah,
early
but this
exposed to him?
no, this was even before I knew about Mayer.
Okay.
Howie Day had a underground following. Excuse me. He was a 16-year-old kid who was playing. I believe his parents owned a coffee shop or something like that in Boston. I think it was Boston, somewhere in
Okay. I was going to say,
Massachusetts.
like, Northeast. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he just got a following from that. I could be completely screwing up his backstory, but
You're
it's
right. We're gonna
more or
get
less right.
canceled. We're gonna get canceled in episode 1 by making things up. But let's go.
But yeah, I mean, I was into Howie Day before he was a thing because of his amazing guitar work. He would use these pedals, and he would be a one-man band. And as
Hmm.
somebody who had aspirations of being a singer-songwriter, which we can talk about that on another episode, I thought Howie Day was, amazing. And he came to Atlanta. I went to college, and he comes to Atlanta to play a show. And before that concert, I went out to dinner with my friends, and we went to the Vortex in Atlanta. Which, if you've ever been to the Vortex, it's like a biker burger bar. All the bees,
Yep.
amazing burgers, but like a really fun, grungy vibe. And we walk into this restaurant, and there's Howie sitting at the bar all by himself. Now, again, remember, this is before his concert. So this is a place where
Yeah.
all these people are pre-gaming before going to the venue. And there's Howie Day at the bar sitting
And
there by himself.
How did you know it was him?
Honestly, I didn't even recognize him. One of my friends said, I think that's Howie Day.
Okay. Because if I thought I was remember right, he had like some very big
He had the
hair.
big
So I
hair.
thought
Yeah.
maybe the hair stuck out.
No, and my buddy's like, you got to go like introduce yourself to him. And again, I was playing guitar at that time. I would always close my shows with the song She Says, which was a song that was on
Mm-hmm.
Howie's first album. And I love that song. And I got really into it. I would do a great, intense version of She Says. And it was always a highlight of my shows. At least people would tell me that. So I walked up to him, I gathered the courage, and I said, I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, Howie, just want to let you know I'm a big fan of yours. I play She Says when I play concerts, and you've just been an inspiration to me. And he kind of turns and looks at me and he goes, yeah. And I'm just kind of stunned.
Jeez.
I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting a yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think I just kind of like stuttered for a little bit. And I just, I just wanted to like tell you how big of a fan I was. And, I hope you have a good show. We'll see you tonight. And he looks at me again and he goes, yeah. So I walked away. And I just couldn't believe, they say don't meet your heroes, right?
I
But
was gonna
like
say, yeah.
this guy who nobody is recognizing, he should be so excited that somebody saw him and wanted to meet him. He's still an up and comer. He wasn't selling out an arena. He was playing this little venue in downtown Atlanta. And that was a sign, right? You alluded to the fact that he had some problems later on. So maybe like the next year or so, I think he was opening for the Bare Naked Ladies. And
Mm.
I don't want to, spread any gossip, but I believe he got kicked off that tour because he was being abusive to some young ladies. He ended up in rehab, and I think he dated Britney Spears at some point. He just had a bit of a troubling, I don't know, rise to stardom. And I think that
Yeah.
kind of stunted his growth. He had that one song, Collide, which was his big one-hit wonder. But I don't think he ever amounted to what he could have because I think his attitude may not have been up to snuff. He was not very appreciative of the fans. And one last quick story, and then we can stop talking about Howie for the duration of this podcast, lifespan. But he actually played at my college. I think it was a year or two after that story. And even though I was angry at him and I held this kind of grudge, I still had to go see him, right? Like he comes to college and it's a free show if you're a student. So I go see him and I get up. I don't know if I was front row, but I was either like first or second row. There weren't that many people there because it was Howie Day. Nobody really cared to see him, but I am going to get canceled by the Howie fans. At some point during the show, he says, "Does anybody want to do a sing-along?" or something along those lines. And, the crowd goes, "Yeah." And I'm just feeling, saucy or whatever. I go, "No!" But I yell it so loud that it kind of like sticks out from all the yeses. And he turns towards me and he's like, "No." He's like shocked that somebody would say no. And I got the bootleg of that concert. And you hear this whole exchange on the bootleg. And so I felt like I finally got even with Howie. So me and Howie are okay now. We're okay now.
I mean, it would have been funny if you just looked at him and said, "Yeah." Right? Let's bring it full circle.
I'm sure he remembered me. Yeah.
Well, that's too bad. I think people should still try to meet their heroes, but that's kind of a bummer. Maybe it's one of those cases of too big, too famous, too soon.
I think that's what it was. I think that's.
So I think this is good for us, right? Because still haven't peaked yet. We still got a long way to go.
We're working out the kinks here. Working out the kinks.
We are. Well, we want to keep these short, keep them fun. So we're at about the 20-minute mark. So I think we'll wrap it up for tonight. But really, thank you all for checking this out. We'll do the typical like, subscribe, leave some comments. We're going to try to get a couple of these in the tank, as they say, and we'll push them forward and would love some feedback. And cheers to everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.